Welcome to Philosophy Vibe. My name is George, and today I wanted to present to you my top 10 philosophy books. Now, some of you may have seen my top 10 philosophical fiction video. If you haven't, then do check that out. But in this video, I wanted to go through my top 10 philosophy books, as in actual non-fiction academic philosophy by philosophers that espouse specific philosophical theories. If you are studying philosophy at school or university, then no doubt you will have come across some of these books, or certain theories within these books. But if you are just getting into philosophy, this, I think, is the core reading material for Western philosophy. If you are only going to read 10 books on philosophy, I think these are the 10 philosophy books you should read. So how I have determined this list, it's not that these books are philosophies that I truly believe in or live by or anything like that. It's more so just how interesting and mind-blowing these theories are, how well thought out they are, how well they are argued, and how well they stand up to criticism. And also, to a certain extent, how well they are written, how accessible are they for us to understand, and of course, the time they were written in, how the ideas in a specific time period went on to influence and shape philosophers and theories in the future. Now, as I said, this is specific to Western philosophy, so it's all European philosophers, and with that, I have compiled this list. If you have the time and energy and you want to be an absolute king of philosophy, then read these 10 books. And if you don't have the time, then check out the Philosophy Vibe YouTube channel in more depth. My friend John and I have covered a lot of these theories in our videos, all explained and debated. You can even buy our anthology book set on Amazon, all our scripts compiled into 3 volumes, Philosophy of Religion, Metaphysics, and Ethics and Political Philosophy. This set covers all the core Western philosophical theories in easily digestible debates, so there's always that option too. So with that said, here we go, the top 10 philosophy book list. In at number 10, we have Critique of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant. This is a powerful book by the great 18th century German philosopher. Kant really builds off the philosophies of his empiricist and rationalist predecessors, but brings a whole new level of thinking through this book. We are introduced to the spectacular metaphysical argument of transcendental idealism. This philosophy of perception comes with a newly proposed time and space spin to it, a really marvellous theory. There was also brand new developments around the a priori and a posteriori distinction and the analytic and synthetic distinction, so there's a lot to unpack in this book, but it's quite a tough read. Not that accessible, so be aware. I think it's one of those books that you would need secondary books and essays on to really understand it, but great theories here, give this one a go. In at number 9 we have A Treatise of Human Nature by David Hume. Often regarded as one of the most important books to Western philosophy, this 18th century work by the Scottish philosopher has so much depth to it, covering so many different areas. David Hume's treatise dives into metaphysics with a look into skepticism, ideas and understanding, space and time, cause and effect, the soul and personal identity, but this book covers wider areas of human nature around pride and humility, vice, virtue, morality, love, hatred and much more. Again, this is a tough read. Secondary material would definitely be useful here, and Hume really slings a wide net where this is concerned. So many different philosophy areas are covered here. I wouldn't start with this book, but as you get into philosophy, this should definitely be on your reading list. In at number 8, we have The Republic by Plato. So then, the works of the great ancient Greek philosopher Plato, written in the 4th century BC, this is a really fun, enjoyable philosophy book that should be on all your reading lists. Some argue the beginning of Western philosophy. The Republic is a dialogue written by Plato using his teacher Socrates as a character, debating various Athenians. Through the conversations, we're exposed to some of the most profound philosophies. Subjects around justice and the perfect utopian city are discussed. There's also some fascinating metaphysical subjects around the theory of forms, as well as the famous allegory of the cave, one of the most mind-blowing philosophical stories told. This is a great book, probably a good starting point if you have not read any philosophy books before. In at number 7 we have On Liberty by John Stuart Mill. This 19th century work by the British philosopher is a masterpiece in political philosophy. Applying the ethical theory of utilitarianism to governing, this book dives into how we should be ruled, the balance between authority and liberty, the individual, and freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and freedom of expression, as well as major ethical frameworks around the harm principle proposed. This book has been so important to the liberal belief that really shaped Western politics and the Western world in general. One of the most important political philosophy books. This must be on all your reading lists. In at number 6 we have Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. The rebel philosopher published this book in 1886. Apart from taking aim and really criticising a load of other philosophers, Nietzsche proposed some really thought-provoking ideas around morality, religion, free will and truth. This book also dives into Nietzsche's concept of the will to power and the master-slave morality. A very edgy philosophy book by a very edgy philosopher, but a great read. An important work for Western philosophy, especially for the 20th century, definitely worth checking out. Okay, so now we move into the top half of the list. In at number 5 we have Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. Another of the great ancient Greek philosophers, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics is a world-class ethical book. Written in the 4th century BC, this moral philosophy study is all about developing into a virtuous person. As such, we get the fascinating theory of virtue ethics, the wonderful concept of eudaimonia, and the development of moral character by one of the wisest minds to ever walk the earth. This is definitely a great ethical book and one of the best philosophy books you can read. In at number 4 we have Language, Truth and Logic by A.J. Ayer. Written in 1936, this is a great read by a great 20th century philosopher. This book is the essential guide to the logical positivist movement of the 20th century. A group of philosophers would meet in Vienna, known as the Vienna Circle, to discuss areas around language, meaning, logic, empiricism, methodology, and more. As such, this book gives us an all-round look into the philosophy of logical positivism. We hear Ayer's thoughts on the rejection of metaphysics, the meaning of language, the verification principle, as well as the meta-ethical theory of emotivism. This is a straightforward, no-nonsense philosophy book. I really enjoyed reading this and I think you will too. Okay, so now we're in the amazing section as we enter the top 3. So, who takes the bronze? In at number 3 we have An Essay Concerning Human Understanding by John Locke. So, John Locke is one of my favourite all-round philosophers. His work around moral philosophy and political philosophy are exceptional, but in fact, it's his 1689 book, Essay Concerning Human Understanding, that is my absolute favourite of his. This is a work of art in the field of metaphysics, philosophy of perception, and epistemology. Locke really brings these complex areas of philosophy together in one outstanding book. Central to this is the philosophy around primary and secondary qualities, which was just a mind-blowing development in the philosophy of perception and indirect realism. We really get the empiricism versus rationalism battle brought forward here. This is a great piece of work by an amazing philosopher. This must be on all your philosophy reading lists. Right then, so who gets the silver? In at number 2 we have A Treatise Concerning Principles of Human Knowledge by George Berkeley. So then, this is the absolute golden book in terms of the philosophy of perception and empiricism. I love George Berkeley, I love how out there he was as a philosopher, and A Treatise is really mind-blowing. This 1710 book took empiricism to another level. Building off of the works of John Locke and his primary and secondary qualities, Berkeley uses the treatise to introduce us to the theory of idealism, which itself brings in philosophies around perception, epistemology, God, and so much more. A wild metaphysical theory, one of my favourite philosophies from one of my favourite philosophers. A Treatise Concerning Principles of Human Knowledge is a must-read for anyone getting into philosophy. Right, so we've gone from 10 to 2. Almost ready to reveal number 1, but before I get there, I do want to quickly mention a new book by Philosophy Vibe we really think this audience would love. Introducing Requisite Release. This is a philosophical novel written for a deep philosophical audience. The story follows Simon, a young man battling severe depression and undergoing a major existential crisis. Simon no longer sees any purpose or meaning to life. His nihilistic worldview has consumed him, and as a result, he has become a social recluse, developed debilitating anxiety, and destroyed all significant relationships. Simon is recommended to undergo cognitive behavioral therapy and begin seeing the therapist Linda, who is tasked with trying to help put his life back on track. The book is a compilation of Linda's therapy session notes and Simon's journal log. This is the story of a young man's journey of self-creation and the search for meaning in an absurd universe. If you are watching this video, then you are a person interested in philosophy, deep themes and thought-provoking material. This is definitely the book for you. It is available worldwide on Amazon, the links are below, and all purchases really help out this channel and we really do appreciate it. Okay, thanks for sticking with me so far, but we're ready now to reveal number one. So, here we go. Philosophy Vibes' number one philosophy book is Meditations on First Philosophy by René Descartes. This absolute masterpiece in philosophy. Published in 1641, this book is seen as the start of modern Western philosophy, placing Descartes as the father of rationalism. There is no question, this is one of the most important philosophical works ever written. I would argue the most important philosophical works of all time, and definitely deserves its spot at number one. This book is so fascinating to read, so mind-blowing, and Descartes really does an exceptional job. The beauty of this book is that Descartes completely breaks down all his knowledge, all his truth, rejects absolutely everything to its core, and then rebuilds from the absolute bottom using his rationality. This was truly the birth of rationalism, and it's just such a marvelous work to read. Within this book, we're introduced to ideas around skepticism, the mind-body distinction, and dualism. We read about the existence of God, the attainment of truth and knowledge, and as such, this one book hits so many philosophy subjects, including the philosophy of mind, the philosophy of perception, the philosophy of religion, epistemology, rationalism versus empiricism, and more. This book carries so much depth to it. It really is the perfect book for philosophers. It's a great read. Descartes' rationalizing is just fun to read. It's so mind-bending, so interesting, and he ties all these philosophical subjects together in just such a perfect way. If there is one book, just one philosophy book you should read, it's definitely Meditations on First Philosophy, a true work of art and Philosophy Vibes' number one philosophy book. So there you go. Philosophy Vibes' top 10 philosophy book list. I hope you enjoyed, and what's everyone else's thoughts? Do you disagree with any of my choices or rankings? Are there any books you think should have been included? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to grab your copy of Requisite Release on Amazon, and if you do want to explore all the philosophers and their works, remember, Philosophy Vibe has covered these philosophers and their works on the channel in video debates. You can also read the scripts to our debates in our anthology collection, also on Amazon. Links are all below. But that's it from me. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.